Well, that was kind of an abrupt end. What is up? Welcome in. It's Post Loons, April 16th, 2022. Jeremy Rushing here with you, presented by SodaSoccer.com. Alongside me, fellow Soda Soccer contributor and co-host of the 10,000 Pitches podcast. So it's a little 10K Pitches takeover of Post Loons tonight. Of course, I'm talking about Dominic Jose Bizonio. Dom, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Jeremy. I'm doing a lot better than I thought I was going to be doing about 45 minutes ago. So
yes,
a night of a lot of sudden changes, and they ended up changing in the right way for the last change.
Yeah, the pendulum shifted quite a bit in this one. We were talking off air about that before we went live, how this had a lot of momentum swings, but the final momentum swing was the crucial one, as the last 15 minutes or so, 15 plus, were all Minnesota United. 2 goals in 3 minutes, I believe, to seal the win. And they come out on top against Colorado. A big 3-1 win at home in front of the Wonderwall. Of course, you have Wonderwall blaring through the speakers of Allianz Field after that ended. And all in all, a huge, huge win. One very much needed following 2 losses for Minnesota United. If you are trickling into the stream on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, tap the bell to get notified whenever we drop a new video, and also feel free to drop those questions, comments, hot takes in the chat following this one. If you're watching us on Twitter and you want to get involved in the conversation, unfortunately, the platform we use here, the StreamYard we use, we're not able to see those questions and comments coming in from Twitter directly on our feed here. So it'd be a huge help if you want to contribute to the conversation on Post Loons. Make sure you go over to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Soda Soccer, search Post Loons, and you should be able to find us and get involved in the show that way. If you would rather just sit back, relax, and chill and watch on Twitter instead of YouTube, feel free to do that. Give us that retweet, though, if you could. That would be awesome. But alas, Dom, a 3-1 win for Minnesota United. And we got a comment here off the bat from Hype Brown. His word of the night, dynamism. This team, I'm guessing he is alluding to the dynamic nature that they showed over the last 15 minutes or so with, Robin Lod moving to the 9, Dunladi playing out right, theoretically, Hlongwane on the left. A lot of guys where you basically have 3 or 2 strikers and 1 winger, but the winger's playing striker and the strikers are playing the winger positions. But all in all, it does work out. You get the 2 goals. I guess from the dynamic nature of the attack, especially after the substitutions were made. What were your initial thoughts after that substitution was made, or those substitutions were made? And what are kind of your more, I guess, hindsightful thoughts following the win?
Yeah, spoiler alert, this is going to connect to one of my 3 things. I saw another, I think it was a tweet in response to the full-time "How are you feeling" tweet from the Soda Soccer account. I don't know who it was. Apologies, but you can go find it. But someone saying something along the lines of like they were pro Team Chaos with the switches at the 70th minute. How I felt or how I saw it, I thought our attack suddenly looked infinitely more dangerous. And I thought, admittedly, as everyone's kind of alluding to, there was a chaotic nature to it and sort of an open flow nature to it that, you probably shouldn't bet on working every game. It's a very volatile, thing to put your money on. But I thought that as soon as Amaria and Fragapane were off and then Ladi and Hlongwane were on, we looked completely different. And all those almost chances that we were creating or not creating suddenly were turning into, oh shit, we almost scored every 5 minutes. And then we scored twice. So the attack just looked completely different with those 2 guys on. And I don't know, how that translates into a long-term plan. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But at least for that moment, that 20 minutes tonight, complete game changer.
Absolutely. I mean, It was really a complete switch in the way this team just looked more free flowing in the attack. This is going to be one of my three things too. I guess we should cut that off. Let's go ahead and get into our three things instead of alluding to the three things and then just repeating ourselves when we get there. So, and if you guys watching have three things, one or two or three big takeaways from the match, feel free to drop those in the chat on YouTube as we're rolling through these. I'm going to kick things off with my first thing. And my first thing is Ray answered the call tonight. We were talking on 10,000 pitches. Jacob Schneider and I were talking on the last edition of Post Loons following the game in Austin about how something needed to change with Reynoso. And some of the conclusions being drawn were that he needed to maybe be benched. He needed to maybe have a message sent or just have something change where he's coming off the bench, just some sort of switch up. That obviously did not happen. He's your best player. Can't really argue with keeping him on the field and trying to have him figure it out. And figure it out he did tonight. 2 assists, was just making things happen all match long. Really a vintage Emmanuel Reynoso performance tonight, especially relative to what we've seen in the previous 6 matches.
Yeah, without a doubt. Great performance pretty much through and through. Obviously, assist the first goal, and then I think technically through MLS rules, because MLS does that sort of secondary assist thing. I think he technically gets another secondary assist among the other goals.
A hockey assist, if you will.
Yeah. But, I mean, those nuances aside, great game from him. Helped create pretty much every goal in some way or another, and was a dramatic improvement on what we've seen in the past, where up until now he's had, 0 goals from open play and then no assists. The only thing to caveat all that with is now he has to do it more than once. So, when we've talked about this through the season so far, both of us have alluded to the fact that Minnesota United has had players that are really great sometimes before. The difference, what the team needs is someone who's great all the time. So, this very well could kick off like an insane run from him, as he's done in the past, that lasts a long time, and then it solves all the problems and we look dumb for what we said last week. And that would be awesome. But that needs to actually happen. Can't be hypothetical. Yeah. So we'll see what, I don't know if he'll play against Madison, but we'll see what he does against Chicago. And from then on, tonight was great, but it needs to happen all the time. That's the weight of being a DP and being a signature DP on a team. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. But I absolutely agree that tonight was phenomenal from him, especially once the attack got a flow to it. He was absolutely at the core of that. I guess on the opposite end of talking about the flow of the attack, my first thing is just that I kind of already said this, but everything changed when, for me particularly, Luis Amarilla came off. Fragapane also came off of the same substitution break, but for me the real change was Luis Amarilla, who, from the stats I saw and from my eye, had 1 shot tonight. That might have been inaccurate. Sometimes stats are wrong. But that's what I saw on various sources. It was 1 shot in 70 minutes. That in itself is not great. But then when you add to the fact that as soon as he was removed from the team, everyone seemed to be connecting better. Everything seemed to be faster paced, more more instinctual, more intense, more going right for it, more not thinking too much, and not being too worried and just going for it. Everything.
Put ball in net.
Yes, which, believe it or not, is how you win the sport. So,
in net. Yeah.
Everything just seemed to click as soon as he wasn't there. And I know that's harsh, but we literally scored 2 goals within the 10 minutes after he left. So that doesn't just happen. And the 2 guys that were coming onto the pitch, by the way, were less experienced players, younger players. Well, actually, I don't know what Denlada's age is compared to his, but off the top of my head. But point being, guys that are not considered starters were coming on, and suddenly we looked infinitely more dangerous. And like I said before, the first hour was, maybe we're going to create a chance, then nothing really happened. That 20 minutes, once those 2 guys come on, every moment we were in the final third, something crazy was happening.
Yeah.
And again, 2 of those, of course, find the back of net. So again, my first thing is just, I don't know what this means again for this eternal conversation we're having about who should be starting and who should be subbed in and all this stuff about the striker position. But the fact is that tonight, Adrian Heath did something that I've wanted him to do, and complained about him not doing. He did an early substitution of a forward in a match, early 70 minutes, but not 80 plus minutes, and it changed the game. So that for me is maybe even the biggest takeaway this whole season. That I felt there's been not enough changing up the attack when we're behind or when it's scoreless. I said score and goal at the same time. Scoreless on both sides. There hasn't been enough changing up the attack. Adrian Heath did that tonight, and it immediately worked. So that's a big thing for me.
I made the joke on Twitter, but it's not even a joke. Like, as a Budunladi, you're starting number 9 now. Like it's kind of that way where it's similar to the goalkeeping situation where somebody has a good performance or somebody like really doesn't have a great performance. That can be the one thing that switches it up. One performance on either side of the coin can change who that starter is, right? Speaking of goalkeeping, and this might be another thing, Dane St. Clair. Wow, great performance. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Abu Danladi comes in and scores a goal. I mean, the way things have been going, Luis Samaria, as you mentioned, hasn't really done anything to say he's the one that's holding down the striker position for Minnesota United. He scored a couple goals, and that was great, but he really hasn't had the consistency to really solidify that spot and say it's his. And then Abu Danladi comes on and 4 minutes later scores a goal. You might have to think about that one a little bit. But at the same time, to continue the conversation about sort of the forward momentum that this team seemed to have when they made the substitutions, that kind of seems to be when they're at their best. And that's weird. Like, the less pretty the soccer, the better Minnesota United seems to play, or the more chances they seem to generate, because they just sort of have this, as you mentioned, Don, they seem to be thinking far less and just getting the ball and going and putting their foot on the gas and putting the ball in dangerous areas. That's more of what I saw. So when you talk about the chaos, it's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of not, in the fact that, like, that's really when this team excels, is when they're creating chaos, right? It's not just the fact that there just happens to be chaos and Minnesota United is taking advantage of it. Like, they're the ones creating the chaos. They're the ones putting that ball in a dangerous situation, getting a ton of feet on it in the box, making things happen. So, yeah, I think just all around the game did change based on those substitutions for the better, as you mentioned. My second thing is medium to long range passes can work. Now, this might seem like a weird thing, but the statistics coming into this game show that Minnesota United was near the top of the league in short pass attempts this year, but nowhere near the top in medium to long range passes. And that kind of has shown, if you've watched this team, they're sort of slowly working their way up the pitch a lot, right? Really trying, whether it's forced by the opposition or whether it's just hesitancy on their part or whether it's the game plan, they are slowly, meticulously trying to work their way up the pitch. They are not really forcing too many long passes. But kind of similar to that chaotic nature we were just talking about, when those substitutions were made, and specifically in that latter portion of the second half, they were sending balls in. They were sending a lot of longer 15, 20-yard passes. Not saying you have to go full Almeida ball and just kick the ball downfield and hope for the best, but I think you can really do more to try to stretch the defense if you're Minnesota United with longer passes with intent, right? I think Reynoso has shown that he can string a long pass. I think Lud has shown he's really good in his passing. Even the defensive midfielders, Trapp and Arriaga, are traditionally very, very good with their passing. So I think you got to trust that a little bit more if you're Adrian Heath and really try to stretch that defense and get them on their heels with some of those longer passes. We saw it work in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, by the way, rest in peace to Almeida ball, because he got sacked today.
Yes.
So I guess we're not getting any more of the utter chaos that was San Jose. No. That's the far end of chaos, by the way.
Yes.
We're cheering on a mild form of it at Minnesota United. We are not interested in going full. But yeah, I definitely agree with your analysis there. I think one thing that one of my things will have to do with Arriaga, and something I saw tonight that's happened at some points in other matches is Arriaga actually has a really good passing foot on him. And particularly in that medium to long range. Even tonight, there were a couple times, I don't believe off the top of my head that they led to a goal, but there were multiple times where he got movement out of the team that just wasn't happening for that first hour. Otherwise, he was able to get some movement, some dynamism through long range passing, through accurate and creative long range passing. So you need. I mean, this feels like a very simplistic thing to say, but you kind of need that to really go anywhere. There's a couple teams in the world that like do amazing things with just like endless short range passing. Minnesota United is not going to be one of those teams. We don't have the players to be one of those teams. Neither do 90% of football teams. So we need to be willing to move the ball in more aggressive ways, and that's what that mid to long range passing strategy is. It's moving in a more aggressive, immediate way. So I think you saw that increase a little bit also when those attacking substitutions were made, just in the sense that there was a little bit of less patience and a little bit more immediacy of getting the ball where it needed to be and not taking time to do it, getting it done right away. And yeah, I mean, it sounds simple to say, but that's just something that every football team needs to be able to do. So we certainly need to be able to do it.
All right, Dom, what's your second thing?
My second thing is, I guess, a shout out of Dane St. Clair. I typed it as shows he's undroppable, but I think everyone kind of already agreed he shouldn't be dropped. I think more what I saw tonight that was pleasing to me was he's had situations with this team before where he has a good period and then he has a stretch where things don't go well, whether or not it's his fault, but the results aren't good. And in previous times, that has resulted in him getting benched for long periods of time, including up until recently, literally. So I was very pleased to see, last 2 games obviously didn't go well, not necessarily specifically for him, but a loss is always going to not be a fun time for a goalkeeper. So for him to come up with a huge game, a Red Bulls-esque game in terms of just like crazy saves all the time, saves for everybody, and then also have it complemented by a positive result. That for me was a great recoup moment for him to show, whatever's happened in the past isn't happening again. I'm not going to let it happen again. Or all of a sudden, a couple games don't go our way, and suddenly apparently I'm not good enough for the team.
Yeah,
no, I am good enough. I know those last 2 games weren't very good, but tonight I'm going to be the best goalkeeper in the league for the week. We'll see what the voting does, but that was a hell of a performance. That for me is like, that's the maturity step. That's what proper goalkeepers do. And maybe he hasn't quite had that in him yet leading up to this year, but this year apparently he's got it. And I mean, it was just a phenomenal performance. The team, to be perfectly honest, threw themselves on his back for a large portion of that game. And for him to just figure it out and keep us in it long enough for those substitutions to be made to find those winners. In a different world with a different goalkeeper, by the time Dinladi and Hlonwane come on the pitch, we're down like 3-1. So, and fighting to maybe take a point. So, just a huge game from him, and showing that even when we have bad stretches, that he's going to continue to have that in him and be able to just bring it back right away. That for me is just a great show of his continued growth and development as a player.
He's just Oprah, just handing out denials. You get denied. Yeah. You get denied. You get denied. Absolutely. There was a moment where my jaw almost hit the floor, and it was the save on Rubio where he deflects it off the post. You're not going to find a better save than that anywhere. That, to me, is just such a high degree of difficulty save. The ground he has to cover side to side laterally to to not only outstretch, but to cover the ground with his feet before he outstretches. And he has just a split second to do that too. And Rubio has some pace on that shot too.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, man. Like what he's doing right now. I mean, his ability to see what's happening in front of him and not react to it, but be proactive in the decisions that he's making, the way he's positioning himself. I know nothing about goalkeeping, but just seeing him just really he's able to read what's happening and get himself in those positions. And you can see it when you watch the replays, how he's setting himself up to make those saves. And the one on Rubio off the post was just absolutely incredible. He had like 3 more saves within like a 4-minute span after that too. Unbelievable performance. And he has been calling his shot all year. He says, this is the year I'm going to prove that I deserve to be between the posts for Canada World Cup. And he is doing it, man. And it is just awesome to see.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean every kind of save imaginable. You mentioned, some long range shot saves, that fingertip save, so to say. But he had some like close quarters duels with, Colorado attackers running right at him and finding ways to stop them from getting a shot away and covering the goal, making it hard for them to do anything other than kick it off target. I mean, he did everything the goalkeeper really can do. And his passing and all that as well. So well, let's move on to your third thing then.
My third and final thing is right place, right time, Robin again. He's so good in front of goal. I think when the substitution was initially made, sort of reverting back to our prior conversation, I was wondering, like, why do you have Dunladi and Bongi out wide and Robin in front of goal? But then Lud shows why he's in that position, because he is so good in front of goal. He is one of the few guys that you can count on to not miss in that scenario, like to consistently put the ball in the back of the net and take advantage of medium to high percentage goal scoring opportunities. And so that's I think it was a great decision for Heath to put him there. That was a go-to substitution for Heath last season. I can't remember who he'd take off. Excuse me. But he would make a substitution that would force so he'd put on Finley to take over the right wing spot, and he would push Lud to the striker position. And that worked time and time again for Heath last year. So if he can find some sort of a rhythm with that again, some sort of substitution he can sort of rely on late in a match, and that substitution includes making Robin Lod your starting number 9, or not your starting number 9, but your number 9 when you need a goal. And if that's what works, that's what works. You could have every striker in MLS, but if the sub to put Robin Lod in the middle of the field is what works, go with it, man. And he has shown increasingly time and time again, he's so great in that position, especially late in matches too. And tonight was just another iteration of why that works and why he's good. He always makes himself available. He doesn't miss a sitter. He doesn't even miss a medium percentage opportunity really ever. He has been your most reliable shooter on this team for the last 2 seasons. That's the reason why I picked him to be the team golden boot. With all these strikers, I picked Robin Lod because he is so reliable. You can count on him at the end of a match to take advantage of those opportunities. And and I'm right back in it, baby. He's tied for the lead. Let's go. Let's go.
That perhaps says something about the team's form so far, that he randomly gets put back as striker one time and all of a sudden he's tied up for the top goal scorer on the team. But no, I mean, I completely agree that changed everything. And he was phenomenal in that old new position that he found himself in. I like you kind of alluded to, I don't know if it's ever a setup that would be started for a game, but I definitely hope this is not the last time that we see the Ponwane, Lod, and Lodi let chaos reign front three that we saw tonight, because in certain games you just need that. And like you said, he's not, technically he's not supposed to be a striker for this team, but with the right movement around him, he's very good at finding where he needs to be. He's very good at getting off one really good shot that can change a game. That's what strikers are supposed to do. That's what the person that started as striker tonight didn't do. And so, hey, if it works, it works. I remember, I think it was the post Loons for Nashville, the Nashville game. Eli and I did that episode, and we talked about for a large chunk of the episode about, Lod has basically been designated as the right wiener for this season for this team, but that's not really where he's supposed to play. But there's not really one place he's supposed to play. He's like this weird multi-positional person who isn't
it's
really
better than the left.
Yeah, no, right. But even, but you can make an argument for him to start almost anywhere on the pitch. Like it's just a weird player in that sense. But if you know how to use that, it can be a fantastic tool on a team. And that's what matters, is knowing how to use a player like that. And so tonight, he decided to use an old trick, like you said, and like we saw last year sometimes, and it worked perfectly. My third thing is also a player highlight, and that's just I talked about him a little bit already, but I'm becoming a huge Arriaga fan. I think that this is one of the most important signings that the team made looking into this season, even though we signed all the strikers in MLS. And I am blown away by how quickly he's plugged in to the level he's playing at. You gotta remember, this is a guy that up until now had only played in Honduras for club ball. He is undeniable starter. I see no reason not to start him every game as long as he's healthy, as long as his thorax is okay. And I mean, again, tonight, he defends well, he creates chances, he moves the ball well. He has that good combination of aggressiveness and when he's got to fight for something, but also like that clean, well thought out movement when he's got the ball or when he's part of a passing motion. He's got both sides. He's got both ends of that midfield talent that you need. And I think the team made a brilliant decision to sign him. I think a lot of MLS teams are made or broken off of really smart, affordable midfielder signings, and he for me fits that perfectly. So I think we're already seeing him a huge part of this team. We're so early in the season still. I'm very interested to see what he is like when he's got half a season in him, and then towards the end of the season, maybe if we end up making the playoffs, when he has a full season behind him. I think this is a really interesting player that we've found ourselves with, and he's maturing so fast already into the level that he's been asked to play. So it's just sort of a general shout out, but he for me was just an absolute highlight tonight, and really every night that I've seen him play. And I think we're going to look back on this year, however it goes, and say, for all the other signings people talked about up front, we're going to be talking about him and how big of a grab it was to get him for the price that they got him and from where they got him for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has shown the fact that he was able to come in and solidify that number 6 spot almost right away after the Philadelphia match was really, it was proof that he was there to make that instant impact. And then the question after that was, could he maintain that consistency? And he has been one of, if not the most consistent performer for this team so far this season. We were talking about, the last match after Austin, for as many flaws as this team had and as terrible of a team performance as it was, Arriaga was one of those few bright spots. And he continues to be a bright spot for this team. And I'm glad that he was able to contribute to a win tonight. And hopefully he can help kind of keep that momentum going moving forward. But before we move any further into the show, want to shout out our good friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee, 801 South 9th Street in Minneapolis, 9thstreetmpls.com, Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS. Coffee, tea, smoothies, and soccer. What more could you ask for from a place, to be quite honest? You can get your pickup soccer fix. You can rent the field out for your group outing, your party, your club and team. your youth organization, whatever. You can run a full field, you can run half the field, and then you can go hang out in the coffee shop and have a good time afterwards. It's a great, great setup at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. Part indoor soccer facility, part coffee shop. You're going to love it if you try it out. It's a great place to be, a great hub for the Minnesota soccer community. And Derek and the team at 9th Street are just awesome people trying to kind of create that space for the soccer community to come and hang out. Derek tells me all the time about this group of bus drivers that come around lunchtime to play pickup soccer every day, basically Monday through Friday. And they absolutely love it. They have a great time. It's something great to do between their morning and afternoon shifts. And they have blast. They hang out afterwards in the coffee shop and just, watch whatever soccer's on the TV or just talk about life and whatever. And man, it's just, it's really, really cool to see what this place has sort of grown to be and what it could become in the future. And if you're in the Twin Cities and you are a fan of soccer and you maybe somebody who likes to get out and play a little bit of pickup soccer, I implore you to go and hang out at 9th Street and give them a shot and give them an opportunity to earn your business. 9thstreetmpls.com, Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS. And even if you don't play soccer, again, they have soccer on all the time, every day on the TVs. They have Minnesota United watch parties for periodic road matches throughout the season as well. So it really is just a cool spot in the Twin Cities soccer community. 9thstreetmpls.com, Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS, or check them out, 801 South 9th Street there in Northeast Minneapolis. Good friends. We can't thank them enough for sponsoring Post Loons and Soda Soccer, 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. One person we didn't shout out in the three things, Dom, but I feel like really deserves it tonight is Hassani Dotson. Again, playing at right back, not a natural. I mean, I guess it's becoming a natural position, the fact that he's just played there so much now, but it really is not an ideal position for him. And I think we've talked about that ad nauseum. But tonight was really the night where he made an impact in the attack from that right back position. That's something that Roman Metnair is really effortlessly almost able to do when he's playing at right back. And Dotson, I think tonight more than ever, really sort of kind of carbon copied that style where he was in the attacking third a lot tonight. And I think that's where he's best. Maybe not playing at the right wing or the left wing or wherever, but if he's able to play in a position where he's able to feature his defensive abilities, but then also get in on the attack at times too, that is where he's best. And I think we saw that kind of performance from him tonight. Really good assist on the Lod goal. What you couldn't ask for a better performance from Hassani tonight. He was really, really good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, the first thing I keep thinking of is when everyone's available and fully in shape and health, the decisions that are going to have to be made about our fullbacks are, I don't even know where to begin. Because weirdly, we're just getting a lot of good options. We just have so many now. I remember a point where maybe last season or maybe the year before that, where it was like if either Metnair or Gasper were hurt, we just had no options at all. And all of a sudden, it feels like we have more fullback options than striker options. But no, I mean he had a fantastic game. Obviously, gets the assist towards the end, but the whole time was very good. Did not, particularly tonight, did not look like a guy playing where he didn't want to play. He looked like that was his position. Obviously, that's not true, and that's not his position. But at a certain point, you got to be able to play where the coach wants you to play. So
he made it his own tonight, kind of.
Yeah,
which was I think good to see, and for the first time, sort of really felt like that. Just an awesome performance. And on the other side, Kamar Lawrence, I think probably his best performance in a Minnesota United uniform so far. Again, it's second or third match, but I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was sort of getting in on the attack a little bit too. Started a really good counter attack, had a really nice long ball to Amaria, and somewhere between the 15th and 20th minute that ended up resulting in nothing. Hindsight didn't really hurt that much at the time. Was kind of head scratching how that didn't end up in anything, but so he had some really good stretches tonight as well, where he looked like a guy who could potentially be that starting left back. But you get Chase Gasper back now too, which is fantastic. That is awesome. It's great to see that he's back. Andy Grader from the Pioneer Press was talking about how the team was just super happy to see him back on the training pitch this week too. That's just a fantastic story in and of itself. But he is not necessarily stepping back into a surefire starting left back spot. It's going to be a competition for that between him and Kamar Lawrence. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where that shakes out. But then on the other side, Dom, you have the same thing going on sort of with, Hassani Dotson had a great performance tonight. And if everybody's healthy, maybe he's the guy. But O'Neal Fisher, really good as well. DJ Taylor, sort of young, and I think deserves a little bit more time to see if he can translate that into some good, consistent play. So there's a lot of decisions to be made along the back line, but they're good problems to have at this point because they give you options.
Yeah, without a doubt, you'd rather be in this situation than the opposite, where you feel like you only have one option per position or barely that. Yeah, the other thing I was saying just on the Dotson note is, I will say I think it's a great show. Obviously, he's a younger player. It's a great show of maturity to see a professional athlete or professional soccer player have it made very clear to them that they're probably not going to play where they want to play. It's just not going to happen. There's two guys in those positions right now who there is literally no reason to move. So it's just not going to happen. And for their reaction to be, all right, well, I'm just going to go all in on this other position you are willing to play me in. The world of professional soccer is filled to the brim with people who don't do that and whose careers fall off eventually because of it. So the fact that he understands, well, look, it's this or I probably don't play. So I'm going to do this and do as well as I can. And hopefully that helps me, continue to develop as a player in my career. That is a really encouraging show of mental strength from him. So whatever that translates to into his worth as a player or whatever, I don't know. But it's just a encouraging character trait to see him continue to have as a relatively young soccer player. So a lot of guys in his position don't do that. A lot of young stars, very liked players on teams get very strong feelings about these sorts of things. So just very encouraging that he doesn't seem to be doing that.
I mean, it would be hard to blame him if he went into Mark Watson's office and said, trade me or sell me or whatever. I'm not playing the position I want to play. I could probably play that position elsewhere, cut me loose. But for all we know, he hasn't done that, and he has put his head down. And as you mentioned, he is sort of taken what he's been given. And as of now, he's given right back. And it's not ideal, but he's making the most of it. He had a really damn good performance tonight. So we'll see what that means moving forward. I'm not optimistic that we're going to get Roman Mettenere back anytime soon. I don't think we should get Roman Mettenere back anytime soon. So that right back spot is what's open right now. And if that's where he's going to play, or that's the spot he can play, he's probably going to do all he can to make that his. And, he did himself a lot of favors tonight with his performance. I thought it was really, really good. Few questions and comments rolling in the chat. Again, if you are watching on YouTube and you want to contribute to the conversation, go ahead and drop a comment, question, hot take. If you're watching on Twitter and you want to get involved in the conversation, you're going to have to go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com. Just search Soda Soccer or Post Loons. Mr. Geldy chiming in on Reynoso. Says, nice when we have more attacking threats to give Ray more space. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of been the neutralizer for Reynoso, is when teams can afford to just key in on him and make life really tough for him when he's on the ball. That has sort of been that recipe that has worked. But if you have the guys around him who are performing at a high level, it gives the defense more to think about. That's in turn going to open up more space for Ray to work with. And if Ray has space to work with, he showed tonight, he is very, very dangerous. So yeah, I agree with Mr. Geldy. I think a lot of his success had to do with the fact that he was getting support, literally and figuratively, from the rest of the attacking front.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, to a certain degree that was happening in the first hour of the match. Obviously, he had the assist on the first goal. But again, when those changes were made in the second half, it felt like the movement of every single player on the front half of the pitch was more dynamic, more hungry, more ambitious, more looking for interesting things to create, to do. And I think that even though he didn't score or have a proper assist in that stage of the game, he was very involved in everything that happened. And I think you saw what those players were doing, whether that be Dinladi or Lamane or Lode or even fullbacks coming up or anything. He clearly was benefiting from that more ambitious, quick, uh, uh,
said instinctual
immediate
earlier,
movement,
Dom. I think
instinctual.
that's a
That's a good
great
word. Instinctual
adjective.
movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was thriving on it a lot more than what we've been seeing from the starters in recent matches. So that was very good to see that there is perhaps something that can be changed about the team, stylistically or even just pace wise or mentality wise, that can easily unlock something out of him. That's good to know that it's not a matter of something has to happen to him, but that perhaps there's even just a small adjustments that can be made around him and you can refine the guy that you had last year because the team needs that so badly. So that's very encouraging.
Dave Valensky, always love Dave's support and contributions. Has a great day for the Timberwolves and the Loons. How about them Wolves, huh? Going on the road in Memphis, enduring another protester on the court as well. The Wolves protesters have followed them to Memphis evidently, and somebody chained themselves to a hoop after somebody glued their hand to the court during the play-in game the other night. But either way, they get the win in game one. So shout out to the Timberwolves, and the Loons get it done today too. So just a great day. You know, there are few great overall days in Minnesota sports. So today was one of them, and you will absolutely take it.
I think the Wild are playing today too. I don't know how that went, but yeah, great to have more than one Minnesota sports team have a good time, and the same day, and hopefully the Timberwolves turn whatever's happening into some sort of long term, great run. That would be really awesome for a team that I haven't seen have a lot of success. So yeah, that'd be great, and I love the idea of synergy around Minnesota sports teams. That's always fun.
Wild lost 6-5 in OT
Ooh.
to St. Louis. So that's what happened to them. That's
the Minnesota Wild, the only bad hockey team in Minnesota.
They're pretty good, Dom. They're what, like 44-28 and whatever many ties they have. So
I
they're
suppose.
Okay.
I suppose. Okay. But when you're in a state full of teams that regularly win every form of college trophy that there is, it's a rough comparison to find yourself in.
Christian chiming in said on Robin Lud said Lud is a Chicharito-esque poacher, and I'm all for it. Needs someone who can score. Yeah, if you can find him in the box, he is going to put the ball in the back of the net. That is just kind of end of story with Robin Lud. That's, I think, the value he can bring to this team. So playing him more centrally, I think can be advantageous, especially if it's a move you're making late in the match.
I don't know how Chicharito would feel about that comparison, but I think I do like it. I do like what he's saying. Like, it makes sense. It's Lod is, again, it's a guy that kind of has a lot of different positional skills that he has, but maybe some deficiencies at the same time that kind of coexist in this weird way. But again, to that point, it's like if you let him have a little bit of space in the box and then you get the ball to him, the guy consistently just knows how to get it either into the back of the net or at least create a situation where a good save has to happen. He's got that in him, and that again is why I think he's always a question mark. I can appreciate how difficult it might be. Obviously it took him a while to find a position where he consistently performed well in this team. He made lots of references to the left wing stage of Robin Lod's career at Minnesota United. But I can appreciate how it's probably very complicated to find the best place to play him because, again, I don't know what his position is. I really don't. And by position, I mean what his true natural best position is. I don't know if it's even one that really exists. in like the current formations that we use for this sport, because he has these really interesting things that he can do in different places. But yeah, you know, again, we already talked about this, but I'd be very interested to see if we see the revival of that sort of late game 10, 15 minutes of Loda as the striker thing, because it worked really well tonight.
Guys, if you're in the chat calling for the manager to be sacked after a 3-1 win against the team who finished first in the Western Conference last year and a team that's 3-2-2 on April 16th, your chat, A, is not being read on the air. I'm sorry. And B, I think you need to reevaluate things a little bit personally. That's just my personal opinion. But anyways, enjoy the win. Enjoy the win.
Can I say something, though, about Heath?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the one thing I'll say, because I've been critical too, although I'm not like posting hashtags, but I've been critical too. The one thing I'll say about tonight that is sort of middle of the road on all that is this. I think the reason we won tonight is because he did something he never does. So that's great, but that does not change the criticism being right about him.
No, you can critique. Yeah. Absolutely. I have no problem with critique. I have critiqued Adrian Heath on this show multiple times. There's nothing wrong with critique. But after a 3-1 win, pretty dominant victory at home, you're 3-2-2. If the point of your comments after that win is that the manager should be sacked, your comment is just not getting read on the air. All right. We're going to go from that to shouting out some good friends of ours over at Stimulus Athletic. If you want some quality game gear and apparel for your club, or you're just looking for some comfy athleisure wear to wear this summer while you're going for your runs or whatever it is, check out stimulusathletic.com. They have all of it. They can help you out whether you're the owner of a club, you're a coach, an AD, whatever it is. And you're looking for some quality game gear and apparel, but you don't want to break the bank to get it for your team or club, Stimulus Athletic is the place to go. And they have an awesome design team at Stimulus too. So not only can you wear some stuff that feels good, you can look good on the pitch. Just look at a team like, I don't know, Minneapolis City or Tulsa Athletic or any one of the number of teams that Stimulus Athletic partners with. How about the Anguilla national team as well? All those teams look good. They feel good. So they play good. There's a theme there. And Stimulus Athletic is who helps make it happen for him. So if you're in that same situation and you're looking for somebody to outfit your club, check out Stimulus Athletic, or you're just looking for some really nice athleisure wear made by a local company to wear this summer, you can check out stimulusathletic.com for that as well. Jason Mora has been such a big supporter of ours. So go and support them if you can. Stimulusathletic.com. Let them know Jeremy and Dom from Post Loons and Soda Soccer sent you over there. All right, Dom, let's go through some of the highlights in this match. And we will start here. Where do we want to start here? We'll start in the 34th minute. So Jack Price, pretty hard challenge on Amaria. Initially earns himself a red card. Loons fans everywhere hold their breath because we don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, right? And then VAR changes it to a yellow. We all kind of exhale. We don't have to find out whether it's a good or a bad thing. And I think that is something that brought comfort to a lot of people watching, both Colorado and Minnesota supporters alike. What did you think of the challenge and what did you think of the change?
It definitely wasn't a red. That much, especially when it happened in the moment, and there was some commotion, my initial thought was, oh, he's going to get a yellow card. I was a little taken off. I was a little thrown off by the fact that it was a red. But then I was like, okay, I guess it's red. I didn't necessarily see it perfectly. Maybe it was worse. So then I started to think that. But then when you see the VAR angles, it's just not a red at all. He comes from behind him, but he doesn't even really hit the back of his leg. He actually hits more the side of his foot as he kind of wraps around him. That's never going to be a red card. So the ref probably thought it was worse in the moment. Obviously, Amaria also was hurt, which kind of makes it all seem like it's going to be going a certain way. But I thought it was completely the right call that it got reversed. I understand that when you're in the stadium and that happens, you're kind of stuck in like, well, the ref probably got that wrong, and so obviously there was some things being chanted that were very upset about the call, but it was the right thing. That's not a red card in any way. As much as I predicted there would be a red card in this game, I don't want it to be a bogus one, and that would have been a completely bogus red card.
That's actually what I was about to say. If you're officiating Minnesota and Colorado, you have that red card already halfway out of your pocket anyways.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily surprising that it was pulled there, even though it probably wasn't deserved. I think the refs are going to always err on the side of overcalling stuff as far as undercalling with the Rapids and the Loons. But I did think they got it right in the end after the change to yellow. So, and Minnesota got to stay 11v11, which I think everybody was kind of happy with in the end. So, I guess you could say it worked out. 42nd minute. This is where we got the opener. Reynoso does some magical work on the ball. This is when he's at his absolute best. Sends a cross into the box, which finds Debasi. Debasi heads it on goal. Not much on it, but Yarbrough completely botches the crap out of this. Ball ends up in the back of the net. I watched the replay. Yarbrough ends up like a step. Not only did he like fumble the ball, but he's like a full foot into the goal when he's trying to play this. Even if he is able to sort of push it out, I'm not sure that whole ball doesn't make it over the line just because he is so deep in the goal when he's trying to play it. Very, very awkward, weird situation.
Yeah, really sloppy from him. To a degree in a surprising way, because generally I consider him a very good goalkeeper. But obviously Debasi does the work to get the ball on target, and very obviously his goal deserved. But like you said, most of the time that doesn't go in. If a goalkeeper is in the right mindset and prepared, that almost never will be going in. So the silver line, well, not silver line. The silver line is that it was a goal, but the plus of all that for me is Debasi's had a lot of very strong performances as a defender over this season so far. The fact that he gets that, I think, is a nice compliment overall to his generally good performances, even if it was at the end of the day kind of a sloppy goal.
Talk about sloppy goals. Maybe the universe corrects itself here in the 45th minute. What seems like a pretty harmless pass attempt into the box somehow evades multiple Loons defenders, including Debasi, who just completely whiffs the clearance attempt, ends up at the feet of Diego Rubio for the tap-in. The side judge, I almost can't blame him. He's like, well, there's no way that can count. Something had to go wrong there. I'm going to put the flag up. Like, I don't even know if he was sure it was offside, but it's like, this is the most anticlimactic goal of all time. There's no way this can actually count. Something had to be wrong here. So he initially calls it offside. They go to VAR, and VAR, I think, rightly overturns it and allows the goal just before halftime. Really takes the wind out of your sails if you're Minnesota United. But just talk about an awkward situation. Like, that was just like, I almost didn't even realize the goal like happened until I don't even know. It was just weird.
I thought it was funny. I use the FootMob app to track games. I think you've said you do too. And at some point, I ended up checking back on the ticker for the game on there. I don't remember what I was looking for, and it mentioned that the goal was left-footed shot by Rubio. It's like, well, not really. Like, hit his knee and just like went in. Like, he didn't even try to hit it. I don't think he even realized it was what was happening. It seemed accidental. The thing that I wasn't clear to me, even when they did the replays, and look, it ended up not necessarily being a huge deal, but about what happened there is, either way you can describe it as a whiff, but it wasn't clear to me if Debasi kicked it into him or if like it was kind of a weird, I think the reason it ends up not being offside is partly because it counts as Debasi playing the ball.
That's what they were saying in the broadcast.
Yeah, so it's literally as sloppy. I don't know if a sloppier goal exists than that or a crappier goal exists than that. It ended up not mattering in terms of points distribution, but yeah, a rough moment. Minutes after Debasi had a really good moment. That maybe that's some weird karma or something. I don't know, but um, the good news is at the end of the day, it ended up being a very awkward minute and a generally strong performance for everybody. But yeah, Rubio, I imagine will have a mixed feelings about even like having that on his goal tally for this season, because I don't know if he even really realized the ball was like coming towards him. So
Yeah, really just weird, sort of deflating way to enter the half. But then you get in the second half and you get the Dane St. Clair show here. Um, you get Diego Rubio on the end of I believe it was the end of a corner here. Clean header that beats St. Clair, but it's off the crossbar and out of play. Then you get the 61st, fires a laser from just inside the 18. This is the one we were talking about. Somehow St. Clair gets his hand on it to redirect it off the post. And then 63rd, how about two more from DSC? First, he alertly comes out to cut off Rubio's angle inside the box and denies him there. And then Shinashiki gets an opportunity on a defensive miscue, but it's Dane to the rescue again to make the save on him. That's a 9-minute stretch where you get 4 saves from Dane St. Clair, 5 saves in 13 minutes as well in that portion of the second half. We already talked about it, but I didn't realize till just now that all those saves were in such short proximity to each other, 5 and 13 minutes. But that sort of encapsulates how bad that stretch could have gone for Minnesota. Colorado could have easily ran away with it after that, but he kept him in it and gave them the opportunity to make the changes they needed to make and come out with 3 points.
Yeah, it's important to obviously the game ended very well, but it's definitely important for the team to look back on this one and say, hey, this could have gone very wrong, and we need to figure out how we got to that position, because there was a period of time where it looked very much like it was going to end 3-1 and not Minnesota winning. Yeah. Colorado was just going off. Even to a certain degree, this even was towards the end of the second half or the first half, then into the second half. But just Colorado was just mercilessly shooting off chances, and obviously St. Clair doing wonderfully. And meanwhile, Fragapane was trying to half bike it off the ground and kicked it over the crossbar. I guess I don't know how that happened, but that was the first half. But that was still pretty atrocious. So I'm going to bring it up. But it was for a while there. It was like, oh man, the Minnesota's front line really not doing much right now, and Colorado's are just, electric. They're winning the ball back constantly, creating chances, executing chances constantly. Obviously, they got that goal right before halftime too, so you have that momentum swing. And like we already talked about, St. Clair just comes up huge the way he has a couple times already this season, and just making phenomenal saves. Truly, truly phenomenal saves. Every kind you can imagine, every situation, just coming up big. And again, really making an argument that Canada should give him a chance, and certainly giving Adrian Heath an argument that he should not drop him for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, couldn't agree more there on St. Clair, and that gives Minnesota the opportunity to do what they did here. 71st minute, Bongi for Amaria, Dunladi for Fragapane. 77th, Dotson on the right side on a pressing attack from Minnesota sends a gorgeous ball into Lud, who doesn't miss from point blank. Loons take a 2-1 lead. And then 2 minutes later in the 79th, it's Abu Danladi opening his account. And the Loons are rolling to that 3-1 win. Should note that we got Joseph Rosales on the pitch. Reynoso it's really nice when you're up 2 goals in the, in the 80th minute or after, and you get to bring your star player off to the standing ovation he deserves. That's something that seemed a long way from reality heading into this, is something that could possibly happen. So the fact that we got that in the 83rd with Reynoso coming off to 19,000 standing, that was a good moment, and hopefully a sign of more good things to come for the Loons.
Yeah, a lot of real positives coming out of the last 20 so minutes of this game in terms of the front line. Like you said, Reynoso having obviously a great game, and then having the opportunity to kind of embrace that situation with the fans, both during his substitution and of course at the end of the game. Um, you know, we I noted earlier the whole, well, the consistency is what's going to really matter thing, but having those moments to celebrate, to be positive, to say, hey, we're doing something good here, that can be a huge part of him finding long term form. So hopefully that works out. And for the goals, obviously we talked about Load already, and the magic he managed to work up front. Really happy for Dinladi. I think this is a big goal in terms of him re-cementing himself as part of this team, feeling like he's a legitimate part of this team, a deserved part of this team. Obviously he had a very active preseason that did not translate so far into a lot of action or a lot of goals or assists in league play. So to have this win, not technically the winning goal, but the last goal, the cap goal for this game, a really nice one, by the way, nice finish. Yeah. Great for him. Really cements like, all right, this guy's back. This guy's an option. This guy's for real. With the Open Cup coming up, there's going to be a little more rotation happening, and hopefully through all of that, we get to see more of him. Because still a lot of questions around Unu, but hey, we're playing Dinladi, and he's at least making something of the time he's getting. So that can only help the team.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people when that substitution was made, I saw on Twitter specifically, who were saying, why Dinladi? Why not Unu? Why this substitution? And we were talking about on 10K pitches last week, Dom, that doesn't necessarily have to be who knew. We just wanted to see more options given at the striker position and given significant time, right? You mentioned this earlier, more than just 5-10 minutes, like an actual time to get in and make a difference in the game. And we saw that from Dinladi. Now, he didn't play striker. He played on the wing. I initially was questioning that decision, but ends do justify the means in this particular circumstance. You get 2 goals. Team looks really, really good in that stretch. So hard to have any complaints after that. Hindsight on the side of the decision made, and it ended up working out in the end. We're going to give our final thoughts here in just a minute, but before we head out of here, got to shout out our friends over at Pence Homes. If you're on Minnesota United Twitter or Minnesota Soccer Twitter in general, like Dom and I are both very active on, you know who Nate Pence is. And you probably know him from his support of Minneapolis City, Minnesota United, Equal Time Soccer, Minnesota Aurora. But you might not know that he and his team are realtors that specialize in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And if you just go to their website, pencehomes.com, I mean, some of the most glowing reviews I've ever seen of a realtor. I love the realtor my fiance and I used to get our home last year. And I left them a good review, but it wasn't nearly to the degree that we're talking about some of these reviews for Pence Homes. And just talking to Nate for 5 minutes, you'll see that he is a really great down-to-earth guy. And then if you have a realty-based conversation with him, you'll see he knows what the hell he's doing there as well. Really, really good people over at Pence Homes who can help you out, help you navigate this just weird, crazy market that we're in. So if you're looking to buy or sell in Minneapolis or St. Paul, make sure you just give Nate a call. Doesn't cost you anything to have a conversation, right? So hit him up. You can either go to pencehomes.com. That's PENTZ homes.com. You can see at the bottom there. Or email him directly, nate@pencehomes.com. Nate's a great guy. Really loves the soccer community, supports the soccer community, including what we do at Soda Soccer. We could not be more grateful for that support. So go check them out if you're in a situation where you're looking to buy or sell in Minneapolis or St. Paul. Again, pencehomes.com, or email Nate directly, nate@pencehomes.com. A couple more comments to get to. Dave Walensky says, why doesn't soccer count the third assist like in hockey? Reynoso would have gotten 2 if that would have been the case. And then we have Mr. Geldy. None of the VARs went our way tonight, but I'm just happy that this ref seemed willing to use them and kept the game in check. Any thoughts on the officials tonight? I thought the game was officiated pretty well. I thought both VAR checks were warranted and ended up with the right call. I didn't necessarily see anything as too egregious either way, which is weird to say coming out of an MLS match that I was, mostly satisfied with the officiating. But I think tonight was one of those rare occurrences, Dom, where nothing really stood out in a negative sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly because they did use VAR to fix some key mistakes, like the comment already was alluding to. It ended up being a relatively good game for them because both those decisions, while yes, it's less fun because they were decisions that went Colorado's way, they were also correct decisions, which at the end of the day is what they're supposed to be doing. There was a period of game where the head referee got incredibly card heavy, and I didn't necessarily know if all those cards were necessary. But the first card he gave was for a Colorado player correctly pointing out that Sinclair was moving a free kick way ahead of where it was given.
Yeah,
like that's not a yellow card. He's actually doing your job. So but what whatever.
Oh, hour and 6 minutes in, we might have lost Dom. Hold on, let's bring him back. We're getting him out. Bring him back. Let's see if he's there.
But he didn't get a second one. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Did you hear what I was saying about the card or whatever?
Yeah, the start of it.
Okay. Yeah, I thought some of the yellows were kind of unnecessary, but whatever. I thought it was generally they kept things in control. When calls were maybe made that were a little off, they corrected them with VAR, which unfortunately refs don't do enough of. And so yeah, I thought overall it was a pretty good match for them.
Okay, let's look ahead here, Dom. Busy week ahead. Obviously, we have the match against Madison coming up on Wednesday, 6 p.m. in Madison, third round of the U.S. Open Cup. We've already heard from Adrian Heath that they're looking to, I guess, play a quote-unquote completely different squad than the one that we would have seen tonight against Colorado. Maybe that means Adrian Anu. I'm really interested to see who else that could be. If any MNUFC 2 guys are kind of in the 11 or available for selection. My question, though, has to do with continuity and cohesiveness. We finally saw a little bit of that tonight. I get it's 3 games in 7 days. Madison would be a really good opportunity for this front line to gain some serious confidence. If they were to play maybe even half hour, 40 minutes, get a couple goals, get them off. But I do understand fully why you would want to see some other guys that you might not normally see, start this match, given that it's against the USL League One opponent, nothing against Madison. Your thoughts on that, Dom?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I definitely get what you're saying because there are guys right now that clearly are seen as starters who need to find their flow, and a match against a much weaker opponent does sound like a great opportunity for that. At the same time, you have guys like Lonwane and Dinladi and Unu, less Unu because he's not playing, so it doesn't. But guys that are coming on for periods of time and impressing in various ways. That match does seem like a perfect place to have them start. Maybe also some MNUFC 2 guys. I see the rationale for both ways based on that comment from Heath. I guess the second option is kind of what they're going towards. We're going to be a lot of maybe bench players and maybe even reserve players. It's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, because I think both ways of treating that match have their value. The fact, I guess you play another game in 3 days, you probably want your best quality players available for that. So I certainly don't blame them for maybe picking a more reserve side to play Madison. And if that's how it works out, I think it'd be great to have an opportunity for someone like Lonwane maybe to get their first goal. Dinladi or Anu get some more minutes, maybe get a goal in that game. Maybe get like an hour of play time. But like you said, also maybe last 20, 30 minutes, depending on how the game is going. Maybe you bring an Amaria on, a Fragapane on, a Load on if he's not starting. You have to make the most out of those matches while you have them against a team that's in USL League One. So We'll see. But like I said before, I think it's kind of whatever you pick. There's pros and cons too. So hopefully they just pick whatever works best for the personnel.
And again, that's on Wednesday, 6 p.m. in Madison. And Madison, who is leading FC Tucson right now, 1-0 in the 74th minute. And they're playing down a man, actually. Cyrus Rod gets a red card in the 63rd minute. So we'll be interested to see how that one ends up. But that's, I think a really big game just from a local perspective, right? The fact that's Minnesota and Madison. It's going to be a lot of Loons fans heading down to that one via charter buses and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot funner from a Loons perspective if you come away with a pretty comfortable win. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, Madison fans are going to want to see that one be a little bit closer and maybe even go the side of the Mingos. So either way, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then you follow that up next Saturday for a little matinee, a little 4 p.m. kickoff against the Chicago Fire, the streaking Chicago Fire, who, Dom, have only allowed two. I was checking this earlier today. I should check to see if they played.
They ended 0-0, so.
They ended 0-0 today. So still 7 matches in, only 2 goals allowed for the Fire this season.
Wild.
It's pretty crazy. That's tied tops of the league with Philly. So, it's not going to be easy to sort of keep up this goal-scoring momentum against the staunch Chicago defense, that's a phrase I never thought I'd say. But there you are. So those are the other 2 games coming up this week, Ford Madison and Chicago Fire. We'll be interested to see how the Loons navigate it, but how they navigate it and how they come out the other side, I think will be, where we're at 1 week from now. It'll be interesting to see where we are and if it's a good spot. If it's coming off of 2 wins, then I think that bodes a lot of confidence the rest of the way for what this team could do.
Yeah, for sure. Chicago's gonna be tough. Shout out to Wyatt Owensberg, by the way. He's part of that super solid defense. Those are gonna be Chicago tougher than Madison, but those are both challenges. They're both matches that present challenges, very different challenges than each other. But Chicago's gonna be tough. It's at home at least, so you hope that there's some advantage of being in your place facing them instead of going to Chicago to play them when they're in this form. But yeah, I mean they're incredibly solid right now, and I have a feeling there's going to be less attacking vibes in that game than there ended up being tonight. But that again, if you want to be a great side in a season, you have to be the kind of side that breaks other teams' patterns. So Minnesota United have to think that they are going to be the team that changes that pattern for the Chicago Fire. That's going to be tough. The Galaxy probably thought that tonight, and they didn't do it either. But that's what you got to figure out. And we got so many attackers, so many different skill sets. You got to figure out what set, what pattern, what group can unlock that defense. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a real opportunity. We talk about the opportunities for those statement wins. That's another one. If you're Minnesota against Chicago next Saturday. But obviously in the meantime, we have Madison on Wednesday. No post Loons after the Madison match. Just going to watch that one comfortably from my couch. Maybe only take a few notes, but not the page, the 3 pages of notes that I take prior to post Loons. Just going to relax and watch that one. But next Saturday, we'll be coming at you for another edition of Post Loons. But that's not going to be me. I get 2 matches off from Post Loons, Dom. I got the kids all weekend next weekend because my fiance is going on her bachelorette party. So it's going to be impossible for me to watch 2 kids and do Post Loons at the same time. So we'll get a couple of other guys in here to do Post Loons next Saturday. TBD on who that's going to be. But enjoy it regardless. Enjoy the game against Madison on Wednesday. Dom and I will have another episode of 10,000 Pitches coming your way after that one. And then enjoy the match against Chicago next Saturday. Post Loons coming your way after that. All great content coming your way at sodasoccer.com this week as well. So if you haven't checked out the website, please do sodasoccer.com. If you haven't supported our Patreon, please consider doing that. That helps us pay the people who write and contribute to the website to actually do so. Patreon.com youtube.com/soda soccer. Dom, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you staying up late on a Saturday with me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Glad we got to talk about a win.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And we'll be back with you next Saturday for another edition of Post Loons. See you.